I've been quite open about my admiration for Australian founded companies. And today we have with us another one of these champions. Joining us is Evexo. For those who don't know, they are a modern cloud first warehouse management system specialist based in Australia. Led by Managing Director Jason, Evexo partners closely with distributors and manufacturers throughout the APAC region. Their warehouse and transport management system integrates seamlessly with MYB Acumatica and MYB Exo Business, helping businesses scale with real-time stock visibility, accuracy through barcode scanning, flexible picking workflows, courier connections, truck run management, and much more. In today's session, though, Evexo will walk us through how they see AI transform warehousing, showing where AI could deliver real gains, what the future might hold, and essentially possibilities on how to build your operations to take advantage of smart automation. A few things to mention before we dive in. Today's session is being recorded and will be sent to the attendees and people who have registered. You will all see a Q&A button within your Zoom interface. Please feel free to ask us anything relevant to the topic throughout the session so others can see the questions and add to the conversation as well. We will reserve time at the end of the session to answer these. Also, you'll see a few polls pop up on your screen. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so please take a moment to share your input when they appear. So, without wasting any more time, please join me in welcoming Jason from Evexo. Over to you, Jason.
Thanks, Masha. Thanks, Kilimanjaro, for inviting me to this talk. And hello, everybody. I can't see. So, the webinar is called The Future Is Now. And what we're going to talk about is how Evexo uses AI and also how we see AI being used in the warehouse in the future. And also we'll introduce you to Dave later on. So the agenda is to talk about how Evexo uses AI, how we see it assisting the troubleshooting and support, how we see the exciting part of workflow orchestration, and then we're going to have a demo of Dave, our AI bot. But I wanted to just start with my view, because obviously artificial intelligence is transformative, and all businesses are looking to see how it can be used in their context. The pace of the arrival, the pace of updates, and the speed at which the market is progressing is it's overwhelming, and sometimes it's a bit scary. There's promises of, taking over jobs, is promises and that it can create a website in 90 seconds and a complete app in a day, that sort of thing. And from my experience, you can take that with a grain of salt at the moment, at least. While there's some truth to that, it can speed things up. It's not going to deliver a quality product in that time, so no need to panic. But like anything, I see the pros and cons. We've been using it for a couple of years now. On the pro side, of course, it's absolutely fantastic at logical tasks. So, for example, performing mathematical calculations, writing documents, correcting spelling and grammar, interpreting small print terms and conditions. That's something I've been using recently because I've never been bothered to read that before. So find out what you're in for. But it's also got some things that it can't do. I think it's important to remember that while it can write code, while it can come up with things, it can only come up with the things in the context of which it's been trained. So it doesn't have critical thinking. And so I think that's still in the human realm at the moment. So we still need critical thinkers in order to work out how to use this stuff in a new way. And of course, it lacks physical form. So there's got to be some things it can't relate to in terms of that. So that's my two bobs worth. So on to how Evexo is using AI. It's the first important step to improving your warehouse is for Evexo to improve by using AI. Not only will this improve the products and services, as we'll explain in a minute, but it will guide us into what is possible. So you get your wow moments when you're using AI. You go, oh, wow, my gosh, that managed to do that for me. I've never thought it could do that. So we've started this journey a while ago, and like most companies, we started with scrambling to gather the knowledge and understanding of how it works. I still don't really understand what a token is, for example. So Our first foray was over a year ago. We started with a help chat box. Let's call him Dave 1.0. And we quickly learned the term hallucinating. For those of you not heard the term in the context of AI, basically it means that it makes stuff up. Very confidently makes things up too. As one of my tests, I asked him how to enter a sales order in Avexo, something that I've not told him how to do. And within seconds, he came up with this workflow and screen flow that I should follow to do it. But the problem is, it was completely wrong. So he said, right, Dave, back to your office, mate. Go and don't come out until you've got something more sensible to say. So we sent him away, and he's been studying stuff, and he's back. So we'll have a chat with him later on. But that whole process also taught us one thing: is you can put things in too quickly. So while we want to release a lot of things in it for AI and Avexo, it's important that it works, because if we put something in that actually makes productivity worse, then that's obviously, it's bad. So we're not going to do it. So within Avexo, each of our development team and support team have access to a platform called Cursor. That basically plugs into your development environment, and it's great for a number of things. It's provided a lot of efficiencies and benefits to our team. And I think there's three main areas where it benefited. Firstly, it's great for understanding the software. It's got access to all of the areas of the code, the web app, the mobile application, and also the back-end web services. This means that it can explain to our support team and development team what happens when you press a button on the app. It knows which web services it calls and what the expected flow is. So it's invaluable for our support and also understanding where our development should go. Secondly, of course, if there's anything that AI is good at, it's writing code. And it is very good at this. Doesn't mean that we just say, can you please write this, and off it goes. That does not work. You still need control of a programmer, but it does expedite the creation and writing of that code. On top of that, it's excellent at documentation. So part of it's saying it'll write something, and then it will document that in great detail that would probably never be done by a developer. And finally, we use it to review the code. So we can ask it to evaluate code or spot potential bugs and that kind of thing. So that led us to less bugs. So it's hard to put a figure on how much efficiency we're getting, but I would say we probably about 70 to 80% more efficient in our development team through this. And then we have Dave, but we'll come back to Dave later on. Just a thought on Dave, because I'm going to refer to AI as Dave from now on, because that's how I usually call it. So Dave, I've been working with warehouses for 20 years, and what I noted probably years ago, it's probably changed now, is that every warehouse had a Dave, and I always thought Dave was the guy that knew where the stock was, and everybody had to go see Dave. So that's why Dave. So let's start talking about how we see this implemented into Avexo itself. First, of course, support and troubleshooting. We can empower the user to fix their own problems or to get quicker answers as to what is wrong on a particular area, rather than having to go to the help desk. So we'll integrate him into our software, or he should be integrated into any software. And then by doing that, he knows the context. He knows what screen you're on. He knows what sales order, for example, you're picking. And with his understanding of how Avexo works, he can provide answers much quicker. For example, we'll be able to provide step-by-step guidance telling you to do things. And because he's got access to the logs, he can review the logs and see what happened and spot any potential issues, etc. And if you can't fix it, well, he can log the support call with a lot more detail than we would normally get, because he will have provided what you were doing, where you were, and what he tried to do to fix it before he passed it on. Next would be your workflow automation. I think this is the most exciting area, obviously. There are a lot of opportunities here, and we keep coming up with them as we go along. So Dave has access to all areas. So you can see your inventory levels, you can see the picking queue, he can see the incoming goods. He can see the checks that need to be done. He can see the delivery schedule. He can see the weights and volumes of each truck and at what time that truck's going out. So he's got the information he needs to orchestrate to make sure everything gets done on time, and he can take into consideration where things are in the warehouse, so that if it's a very busy warehouse with a lot of people, we can manage the congestion by instructing people to manage where they are in the warehouse. And he can also intertwine different tasks. So, for example, if you've got a guy in the receiving dock, he's got a forklift, he's taking a pallet into the warehouse and he's putting it in the racking as a put away. If there's a replenishment to be done, he's got to drive past it, and based on the congestion and the workflow and the time that he's got, it might be appropriate. It'll say, "Hey, can you just replenish this product while you drive past?" So it's reducing the amount of time that they're going into the warehouse. Obviously, the things they could do with the picking, the potential there for that is incredible, because obviously you've got a number of orders. It can automatically cluster pick. It can make sure that it can split picks into two. It can do all sorts of things, and we're quite excited about that. Optimal put away location, so it can look at the future requirements of a product, seasonality. It can suggest a put away location that's going to be more efficient. So all of these things combined are going to give you a heap of efficiencies, and integration of AI into your operations. It's not just an upgrade. It's an opportunity to rethink how warehouses and transport operations work. It provides an unprecedented level of visibility and control, and will transform the way you think about your business. So, moving on to Dave. So this is going to be a practical demonstration, essentially. So Dave's back. We've been training him on all aspects of Avexo and how it works, and with permission, given read-only access to your data. And he can generate reports and graphs for your data. So we'll go through that in a second. But firstly, I just wanted to mention a note on security, because it's quite an important element. So Dave operates in a discrete ecosystem. Right? He does not operate on the web. Right? He's operating on an enterprise grade platform. He has our training documentation and he has the access to your data, but he doesn't have access to the internet. And the data he reads is completely private. We are not training AI, and the outside world will not be able to find out about your products or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure you understand that. And we also use some token security that ensures that you can only communicate to him from within our internal area. You can't access Dave from any other browser or anything like that. So for the next time, we're just going to go and meet Dave. So I'm just going to switch my screen to the Avexo web app, and I'm going to hide the floating meeting controls. So he will be accessed and he'll be available tomorrow for you, should you want to, through the AI button here. So this that's available anywhere you are, so you can jump in and out of him where you are. So he's it looks like a traditional AI chatbot, which effectively is. It's kind of an easy way to start. On the left-hand side here, we have past chats that you can look at. And if you're an administrator, we also have an admin area, which you can manage users, but most importantly, custom instructions. So while Avexo is one software for everybody, we do know that, for example, you might use Avexo in a certain way, or you might have a different terminology for certain things, and you can add these into the personal instructions, and then Dave will consider that when he responds. So a good example is, and I know one of the companies that's been testing this for us, when they say they've used something in production, what that means is they've transferred something into a warehouse location called prod. So if we were to say, without telling him those instructions, how much have we used in production? Dave would say, well, we haven't used anything in production because I can't find any production orders. However, when we say production, we mean moving into this location, then ask the question again, and then he gives an answer based on that particular command. So it's quite a useful tool. So just want to have a few things on how to talk to Dave. So I think the ability to talk to AI and construct a question is actually an important skill that's going to be becoming more important. You need to know how to talk to them. You need to be informative and give as much information as possible. So my personal rules, I like to talk to him like a human, which is probably a bit weird. I'm polite. I say please and thank you because manners cost nothing. And many say it doesn't matter, but I'm not so sure. My son, for example, is very demanding and he doesn't use manners. And I saw his AI snap back at him once, said, I'm trying to help you, capitals. I never get a response like that. And he should very much hope that AI doesn't ever take a physical form. And then provide as much information as you can to get the best result. So let's just ask. So this is the demo environment, so the information is not as good as it would be with you, but I can ask some questions. So we sell golf balls, as anybody who's ever seen a demo of mine will know. So let's start. Hi, Dave. How many golf balls do we have in stock? And what we've instructed Dave to do is to tell you what he's going to do. So he's going to give you an approach, and then if it's not right, you can say. So in this case, he's going to search for golf balls. We've not got a classification of golf balls. He has to use his intelligence to go through the system and work out which of those items are golf balls, and then provide the stock quantity for those items. So he's going to do that. Now, Dave is not a single bot. Dave is a collection of agents that talk to each other. So what he's done is come back with the stock we've got on hand of all the different golf balls. And obviously, he also extends that to give you some key points. And then he'll give you, he'll give you an extra, some suggestions. But let's just say we want to visualize it. So we want to say, can you give me a pie chart? Sorry about my typing. A brand such as Kilimanjaro that we have in stock by quantity. Please. And then he'll group them. He'll go through and group them, and then he'll prepare a little chart for us, and we can, extend that chart. I suppose we can get that. So he has to go back to your data every time to get the information, because we've already told him that we don't want him to store information. So he does go back every time and get it. And then he'll prepare the visualization. And we'll see we've got a heap of type list, and we can see all the different things in there. Type list dominates. Would you like to see an exact quantity? Now, Dave also has access to his normal training, so the training of the chat GPT, etc. So we can actually combine that with your products. So we can ask questions that extend that. So let's just say, which of the golf balls we stock would you recommend for a 25 golfer? And then he will think about that, and he will provide general recommendations, and we can use that to extend our knowledge. And you can, this is just one example, of course, but your products might be possible to also extend that way. So There's a few buttons here as well, so we can copy the response. And Dave's getting better, but he'll only get better with your guys' help as well. So you can upvote a response, you can downvote it. You can also provide us with a description, and then that will provide Avexo with the this feedback so that we can review that particular series of questions, and then we can improve his training. So it's important that that is something that happens. So let's move on to something more workflowy. So how many picks outstanding? So he's going to go and get all the pick tasks by warehouse. He also does know your current warehouse as well as everything else. So he'll get all the information that we need. And then we might try and break it down a little bit further or suggest things. So we've got 42 picks there, right? So let's see if we can ask a question. Can you the golf ball requirement, the golf balls in warehouse 1, please? Oh, sorry. And suggest whether it will be appropriate to perform a batch cluster pick. If so, I will suggest a route. Great question. See? Thanks. So he'll go off and work that out. Now, the more we're asking him to do, of course, the longer he'll take to do it. But he will come back with a response, and we'll see. Obviously, if you know, a cluster pick is different to a wave pick. Cluster pick is just saying I'm going to pick these 5 orders at the same time. Okay, so he says a batch or cluster pick is highly appropriate. So he's suggesting a batch route and then giving us some actionable steps. So what we might do is, okay, so we'll say, would you be able to any potential saving of this cluster? So he's obviously got assumptions, and you can change his assumptions in your business logic as well, of course. So he's saying that we're going to save 12 and a half minutes. So 30 to 40% saving by doing that as an overlap and around the warehouse. So that's good, I think. Look, there's many more questions that we can answer, that we can ask. We can say, can you see? And this will be the last question I ask as part of this, I think, because then we can go to questions. I'm sure people have got some. Can you see if there are any, or can you see any trends in golf ball in the last 12 months? I'm not saying 12 months because we're using demo. And then he'll go away and he'll give me some trends, and then we can but you can see we can drill in the questions that they answer. They'll give you some additional things you might want to consider. Would you like it more detailed? Would you like historical information, etc.? So he can be of great use, I think, within your warehouse. And while we're waiting for them to do that, we'll talk about where we're going with Dave. So obviously, we intend to continue to improve this. Oh, sorry, I think they've got that wrong there. I'd say that doesn't seem right. You can actually go back to him and say that does not seem right. Seem right. And you can check orders again. So you can actually have a conversation. So if it doesn't seem right, you can actually tell him, go and try again, right? So it's important. So again, you're talking to him like a person, and he'll give you a wrong answer like a person, and you can tell him to go and rethink it back like you would to a normal person. So again, back to where we were going with Dave. So the first goal after this is to allow him to extend his abilities into performing actions. There we go. That's a bit better. And he's spotted a significant spike in sales for Pro V1 in November. And then we can put visualizations, etc. So look, that's a brief introduction into Dave, and just a few simple questions. Obviously, we can ask more, so feel free to ask me now. And then back to where we're going. So he wants to perform actions. So that's via our web services, of course. So for example, if we're analyzing a day's deliveries and a vehicle's overloaded, you might talk to Dave and he might suggest potential reshuffle. What we want him to be able to do is actually implement that reshuffle strategy for you. So he will go away and say, would you like me to do it? And he'll go and move the orders between different trucks. We then expect him to be available with in-app recommendations. So that's reviewing the data that you've got on your screen to suggest, why don't you cluster pick these ones because you're going to the same area, all those kind of things that we can do on the fly. And also implementing that workflow that we talked about, like, hey, can you go and do this now? And we're also going to use him to create dashboard widgets. So what you just saw talking there, you can have a conversation to get to a point where you've got a visualization or a chart or a table that you like, and then we'll be able to sort of save that onto a dashboard. So rather than just having database queries, it can be a series of actions in order to get the data that you want. So thanks for listening to that and having a look at Dave. We've done the first 30 minutes of the webinar based on how we're using it, how we see it being used, and how we are actually starting to implement that into our software. So thanks again to Masha and Kilimanjaro for allowing me to waffle on and put my two bobs within at this exciting time of the world.
Good. Thanks, Jason. I quite like the beginning when you were talking about how you use AI internally within Evexcel. So being a developer in a previous life myself, I know writing comments as a part of your code just doesn't happen. And we had to literally make it a part of code reviews to force developers to write comments. So I'm quite glad to see that at least AI is doing that. But thanks for taking us through what Dave can do. And we all know data is gold. But with that data, you've got reporting available within most of the softwares, but where AI comes in, giving you insights from that, and also in advisory capacity, like how you were talking about, predicting what enhancements can happen in picking or putting away. I think that's where the real use of AI comes up, and also in detecting anomalies. I think you kind of also talking about security aspect. I think that's quite important for everyone to understand. Your data is your data. It's not being stored anywhere else. Dave is literally pinging into your system and providing the insights in real time.
It's like any, think of it as like any of your business intelligence tools that you use. Any of the software that you put in, it's only your data that you're accessing it in your environment. This is just the same thing, but rather than just having, SQL and workflows, we've enhanced it by getting Dave to look at it and using his additional knowledge and understanding to evaluate and identify.
Perfect. Should we go on to the questions? The first one is, beyond the current capabilities of Dave, what are some specific examples of complex multi-step troubleshooting scenarios where AI could significantly reduce human intervention?
Well, I think I mentioned it before. So outside of that, support, I think, is a really good one for that. So when you're on the device, you say, hey, something's not right. And then you can talk to Dave and he'll say, okay, well, let's try this. And he can evaluate, he can run a sales order check through our database and say, and that will return to him some information. He might say, hey, you can't see that because this needs to be done first. So-and-so is doing that. He can also, because he's got access to our logs, so every time you interact with Avexo, we log in the background. So, for example, he could say, hey, can you just try this, please? And then he goes and checks the logs and goes, right, the reason is we need to change this setting. This setting is causing you to, your data is showing you incorrectly because you've got this setting. You're looking at a shift, for example. You're looking at the night shift and you should be looking at the day shift. That kind of thing. So him being able to do what our support people would do effectively, essentially, but without having to go to a computer and log it.
Yeah. And I guess there are more scenarios as well. The key is if you do have questions, reach out to Vexo, reach out to your account managers, and we can help set up a conversation to get you a bit more insights into the capabilities there. The next question, how does Evexo's AI-driven workflow adapt to unexpected disruptions in the warehouse, such as equipment breakdowns or sudden spikes in order volume?
Well, that's a good question because it would need to be told that was broken in terms of things. Look, there's a number of ways we can do it. I mean, if a piece of equipment breaks down, then we should, and this doesn't exist yet, but we should be able to say that the equipment's out of service, and then it can reevaluate what's there, I suppose. We've also got break management within Avexo, so I don't know. Not some people use it, many don't. But basically, you can when someone goes on a break, there's a little button. They press the button, and then that makes them unavailable for that period of time. And when they come back from break, then they just remove that, and then they can start working.
All right, so that kind of extends to this scenario as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's that. So. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. The next one is for businesses just starting their AI journey in warehouse management systems, what would be the recommended first step or a pilot project to demonstrate immediate value?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, I mentioned before when we did the first version of Dave, I think it's important to take baby steps and not to jump in too deeply. I think if you just trust that it's going to do everything for you, then that you need to take it slowly and ask small questions. So we talked about the development tasks, and we talked about putting Dave in and training him. It's important to do it in small bits. So when you're doing a development task, you take up a small chunk and you say, right, I want to be able to do this, and you need to get it to do it, and then you validate that works. You don't say, can you write me a module that loads a truck? Right, because what you're going to get is not what you need. You need to break that into little bits. Say, right, can we need to get a list of things that need to be loaded from the database. Right. Okay, now we need to, next step, now we need to sort that by reverse delivery order, for example. Right. Okay, good. Then you move on to the next bit. Let's see what the screen looks like. Can you make a card, a little tile that looks like this? And so you're kind of building it slowly using AI. You don't want it to go away and do it because you'll have to undo everything and start again, essentially. So I think tentatively getting more used to it, learning how to speak to it. I think I mentioned that before. I think when you first start trying to use AI to do stuff, I don't think you're asking the questions in the right way. And as you get more skilled at it, I think it is a skill, you get better at asking questions, you get a better result. And I don't know what that is, it just happens. So I don't know if it's a finite rule, not that I can think of.
Yeah. Next question's along the same lines as well. Considering integration of AI for support and workflow, what kind of training or change management would be necessary for warehouse staff to effectively leverage these new capabilities?
Well, we're hoping not a lot. We're hoping that
Yeah.
it should be intuitive, and a little button that's on the screen saying this doesn't look right, can I have some advice, and then being able to talk to it. I don't think, and obviously on each screen you can have little, like prompting questions, because we know that you're looking at this screen. So it might say, why can't I see this? Why can't I see, I can't find something I'm expecting to see. I'm seeing something I'm not expecting to see. What is this? Can you explain how to do that? So I'm hoping that it means that it's easier to get people on board. We've always had a 5-minute training rule for picking in Avexo anyway. So we're hoping that goes down to 2 minutes.
Perfect. We've got a question from Richard. Given many commentators are discussing the AI bubble and how the $20 US a month actually costs $500 and the cost is subsidized by investors. If the bubble does burst, do you see yourself running the AI engines in-house or looking at tiny LLMs that might run on-prem with customers?
I have no idea. It's a good question. And I think there's I was looking at it because I'm old enough to have been around for the dot-com bubble, and when that burst. And I sort of walk around thinking the kind of promises that they're making are very similar. It'll make, the internet will make more millionaires in 5 years than there's ever been before. Some element of truth. Now they're saying there'll be more millionaires than the internet has ever made in like 2 years or something. And yes, I was looking at those figures that people are putting into the AI and the amount of money that they're throwing into it. And you just think, what if it does burst? And if it does burst, how much does it burst? Is it just a deflation, or is it just everything goes completely, up in arms? So while and the answer is I'm not sure. I would say we would not run it on-prem. Our Avexo is a cloud-based and always has been since the start. And I would suggest that we would look at leveraging the serverless technologies again, like we do with our standard product, and seeing what's available at that time. We have kept AI off to the side just because of that rule. You don't want something that's so integral in your system that if something happens, you're completely blown away by it. So it is a strategy to make sure that it's a plugin, not a plugin that is integral. But if it's not there for whatever reason, then it's still going to work.
Brilliant. The next question is, will there be some sort of logic base where it analyzes bin codes and suggests to that product XYZ be moved closer to the front of entrance and slower product be shuffled to lesser travel areas within a warehouse?
Yeah, that's a really good use case for Dave, because he can access your data over a longer period of time, and he can say, look, you probably know what your seasonal products are anyway, but he'll say, look, you're coming into your busy season for mangoes. So, no, not mangoes, that's a bad example. For t-shirts, because it's coming up for summer. So let's reshuffle the warehouse this weekend and move all the t-shirts next to the packing bench and put all the big furry coats at the back. And I think that's a really good use of Dave, and we could demonstrate that, I suppose, if we had a better data set than just golf balls. But yes, you could really use Dave to look at that. That's a really good use of Dave.
Perfect. The next question is, will Dave be able to take an order and arrange picking and transport to factory from warehouse if there is robotic transport available on site?
Well, at the moment he can't do anything because he can only answer questions and suggest things. But as I mentioned, one of the first things we're wanting to do and are actually starting to do is to make Dave useful. And so while Avexo has a concept of a cart, which is basically a sales order sort of template, normally we're beholden to the ERP. So we're beholden to Myobacumatica or Myavexo. They tell us what to do. We're just the box shifters. So he will be able to arrange to get those boxes to that other warehouse or that other customer for sure. But whether or not we end up taking the order in the first place, well, that's just a product development that could happen at some point, but it's not there now. No.
Right. I've got another question on the use case for Dave. Can we use Dave if our business doesn't have a warehouse? Example, using it to generate reports or for finding vendors, locating the invoice, etc.
Dave's trained on Avexo and connected to Avexo, so it really only works with. He's a specialist in warehouse transport and production, essentially, and he's a specialist with our product. So he's not. I mean, he could do. No, he can't. We don't give him internet access, so it'd be very difficult for him to go and find a supplier. I mean, he could tell you that you can buy Titleist golf balls from Titleist just because he knows that that's the brand and there's a company, but they wouldn't be able to go to their website and make any recommendations or anything like that.
Yeah, this is limited to whatever data Avexo has got.
It's limited to whatever data Avexo has, and also the generic training of the model that it uses.
Perfect. The next one is from someone who's been using Dave. They say, to us, the simplest use of Dave has actually been the biggest improvement, might be worth noting for others. Human language questions that could be solved with existing workflows or SQL commands can now be answered without needing new or lower level staff to know all the correct workflows or SQL commands.
Cool. That's a good point. Part of Dave's, I mentioned that Dave's not just one thing; it's a collection of agents. They're called, and one of the agents is in charge of the database, and one of the agents is does the business logic. So they basically work together. So he'll say, "Look, I need to get all the." So he'll ask the other agent, "Look, I need some database information." That AI sort of agent knows more about our database structure and can construct the SQL commands for them and then return that information. And that's where we can see in the back end if when you do get an issue or see something that Dave says and you think that's not right. It could be that we just need to train Dave, or we need to clarify something for him in his documentation. So that's what we will do.
Perfect. The next question is, could you please clarify the difference between wave picking and cluster picking? Is cluster picking available in the current Avexo build?
Yes. Well, cluster picking is in beta. It's about to be released in the next release. And the difference between cluster picking and wave picking is wave picking is taking, say, 10 orders and doing it in 2 steps. First step is you go out and you just grab all you need and bring it back to the packing bench, and then you sort it out. So you're just going to, if 5 customers need 2 of something, it'll just go and get 10 of them, bring them back, and then sort them. Cluster picking is where you might be going to a certain area. So maybe you've had a container come in and you've got a heap of things that are going out on back orders. You might say, I'm going to actually cluster pick some of these. And what it'll do is you actually go and pick them individually. You select on the device, or you select the 4 orders you want to pick, and then you go around and it'll say, right, get one of these for this person, get one of them for that person. And you might be picking it into a pack or a tote or whatever you want to call it straight away. So it's a different type of picking. And you may not need a sorting step, as it were, like you do with a wave pick.
Great. And so you said it's in beta at the moment?
It is.
Yeah.
So within the next week or 2, we're going to add that feature, which we had in version 1, but we just hadn't added it yet into the version 2.
Perfect. We've got a new question. Is there a break in the If there is a break in the API connection and Dave cannot access the database to read, would Dave be able to identify this issue, or would he potentially produce incorrect data?
No, he will. He will. I could demonstrate that because I did. I had a panic this morning because I was doing a test, and I asked Dave a question, and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm having some technical issues. I can't access your database." And I realised I was in like something that we've not connected to it. I was like, oh, thank God for that. So he actually just came back and said, "Sorry, I can't get in there. Sorry, I have got no access to your data." So he won't make stuff up. We've specifically after Dave 1.0, we've specifically said, please don't lie. So he will ask clarifying questions. So don't make it up. If you think like you've not got enough information, like you say, can you give me? Have I got enough stock on hand to for the next 3 months? And it'll say, well, on what period do you want to calculate your average daily sales? Because it needs to know that information. So he will ask you that if he thinks that he needs to, but he won't make stuff up. And if he does, please tell us.
Right. Next question. Not all our bin locations are made equal. We have different rack sizes, outdoor locations, etc. If Dave is not trained using our information, how will the AI make successful recommendations for optimal put away locations?
So that's using the web. So there's a couple of things to that. If this is an Avexo user, so we've got storage and storage group, so you can zone the warehouse. We've also got a concept of a warehouse location type, which has different settings, like whether it's a pallet location, you can specify it. And then we can use that information. It's got height, width, depth, max weight, that kind of stuff. So we can use that information, or Dave can use that information to make a better recommendation, let's say. But of course, that also relies on your data being correct. So if you want to say you can only put stuff up to 800 kilos on this type of rack, then we need to know how heavy the product is in order to be able to make those calculations.
Understood. Another question. Can Dave access vehicle availability by a Navman platform?
No, he doesn't have access to the internet. Whether we change that or not is something we've not really discussed internally. But he can't. He can't currently access the internet. We control what he can get to, and if there's a use case for that, he can. He can see where the vehicles are though, because we actually, when the vehicles are going, it actually updates its location in Avexo. If we've got a truck on the road, it pings back its current location every 30 seconds to our database, and so we know where it is. So he will be able to find the vehicle, but he won't be able to use an external system to find that, as it were.
Right. It's a question from my end before we go on to the last question, which is if someone from our audience was interested in looking at Dave and utilizing it within their business, what does that process look like from your end, Jason?
So Dave will be released today, available tomorrow.
Yay!
You just go into the AI tab that I showed you, and if you need to be a site administrator to sign up for it, it's paid, of course. And then once you sign up for that, then you can allocate who you want to be able to use Dave, so you don't give it to everybody. And that's it. And then off you go. And if you do have any issues, then you need to contact us straight away. So we've done our best to make sure that we've got the read-only access set up for the current customers. But if you do have any issues, then let us know. And this is a community development in a way, because you're talking to something that's more flexible than we've ever seen before. We need to understand. We want to get it better, but we need to understand how people are using it, and that we don't know how people are going to use it just yet. We make our assumptions that people want to work out stats and organizing warehouses and stuff like that, and then we're just building on that. But we are driven to develop based on our customers, which is what we've always done as a platform anyway. We develop what we need to develop to meet the needs of our customers, and then we try and innovate around the outside of that. So this is a good example of that, our own thing.
Well, it's a very exciting time to be a part of all this, Jason. We've just got another question pop up. Sorry to clarify, Dave is a chargeable service. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. Oh, yes, yeah. He is.
That's the answer. The last question is great information. Will this recording be available to review again online? Yes. Everyone who's registered for the webinar and who's attended will get an email from us, and we will be sending you a link to the recording of this webinar. If there are any other questions that you have, you want to opt for a demo, reach out to your Kilimanjaro account manager, and we will help arrange these for you. We look forward to continuing these conversations. Thank you very much, Jason, again for your time today, and have a good rest of your day, everyone.